Furniture and shipping as a competitive advantage, they rarely go together. Bulky, costly, fragile, but it can be done. Just ask Freedom Furniture. Partnering with Ship It, they've saved a massive 20% on freight costs across Australia. And that's just the start. With Ship It's API integration, Freedom is easily managing multiple locations and saving big while doing it. They've automated fulfillment for over 50 stores and 100 dispatch points and streamlined their operations. Add expanded carrier options across Australia and New Zealand, essential during peak volumes, and it's no wonder that they've reduced cancellations and improved customer satisfaction. If you want to optimize your fulfillment and delivery operations, whether you're selling furniture or fashion, canoes or coffee cups, visit shipit.com to find out more and turn delivery into your competitive advantage during peak and beyond. If I'm thinking back to some of the big themes in e-commerce in 2025, obviously AI is in there. Obviously Meta is in there again, whether you like that or not. But I would have to say 2025 is the year where B2B e-commerce actually became a bit sexy. And I'm not sure if it's just the circles that I'm walking in because I am doing a lot of work in the B2B space at the moment. But it feels like it's not this ugly, distant cousin that we think we should think about, but we're not that passionate about. It feels like B2B is having its moment, whether that be because traditional D2C platforms such as Shopify are now designing and incorporating B2B in their product releases, whether that be because businesses that have traditionally gone direct to retailers or suppliers are now saying, actually, we need to own our customers for survival, or there's just a huge community forming. As we saw with the B2B Association, we had Brett on during the year, and they've just gone from strength to strength around new events, new activations, and there's a real buzz around B2B, especially here in Australia. So I think it's a really exciting time, and it's only going to get bigger next year. But in that lies the opportunity, because most B2B sites, if we're honest, still feel like relics from the early 2000s. They are definitely not the slick D2C sites that we have come to know. They're very functional, they're very product driven, and they're probably designed more around internal systems than customer experience. But there are a new generation of brands, such as AS Color, that are rewriting the rulebook by designing experiences that incorporate B2B and D2C in one experience, that none is less than the other, that they are both important, they both need unique experiences, but they both need to feel the same. And it makes a lot of sense, right? Because if we think about who's ordering from a B2B experience, it's likely that they're having D2C experiences as well. How bad is it when you order as a B2B customer that you get a second-rate experience? It makes a lot of sense to make a seamless journey between the two of them. So I wanted to unpack B2B e-commerce a little bit in this playbook. Whether you're considering D2C for your B2B business, whether you're considering adding on a B2B arm for your D2C business, or you've just got a lot of conversations and you want to look smart when it comes to B2B. I want to unpack this a little bit today. So to kick off the conversation around B2B, I want to throw back to an episode number 563 with Joe Sharplin, who is the head of e-commerce for that brand that I mentioned before, AS Color. Now, they are an amazing New Zealand-born business who are taking on the world and making apparel now for artists such as Pink. I don't know, do you call Pink a B2B artist now? I don't know. But they are taking the world on, and they're doing it from a dual lens of D2C, including retail, and B2B. B2B is hugely important to them. And I loved in this conversation where Joe talks about how important it is to create a strong customer experience in B2B. It can't be second rate. Here's Joe. It seems like there's a fine balance between the B2B and the D2C world. How do you approach that in your head, especially as you're trying to design that online experience? How do you make sure both are looked after?
Yeah, it's a great question. In some ways, it's, for us as a brand, it's quite straightforward, but there are definitely some intricacies built into that. So, I'd say from a high level perspective, we do try to keep both the B2B and D2C kind of flow or user experience on the website very similar. So, everyone who comes to site initially is almost there as a D2C customer.
Yes.
And it's until you log in as a B2B customer where you're going to see some subtle differences, but nothing too major.
It kind of felt that way because I was on there having a play around and I was like, this just feels like a D2C website. Because in all my research, a lot around the B2B side of the business in terms of what you're doing and how you're established. And I was like, this just feels like a D2C site. And I've ordered through you before, but never through the critical lens of like looking at it from an e-commerce project perspective. But I was like, this just feels like a D2C website. It doesn't feel complicated. Like there's definitely more detail on the product page. And even in the footer, it's not like there's huge call outs on trade or anything like that. It's not until you press that create an account button up in the top right, if you're on desktop, that you start going, there's a wholesale channel through here.
Yeah. And that's been quite intentional. And it's always been that way throughout the business's 20 years where, when we talk about AS Colour product as a business, we kind of lean on some of those things around quality, premium, blank apparel, sustainability. So we want the websites themselves and the e-commerce experience to kind of encapsulate some of those kind of core features of the product itself, quality, premium experience, kind of timeless design. So we try to marry up the two, which ultimately, I think you're right, lands you in this space where it looks and feels like a D2C site. And then you have those little B2B kind of tricks tied into it, which do become more apparent when you log in. You get a bit of a different view on the order grid. So you're able to kind of add things to cart at scale quicker. There's some little things we do like that. We have a B2B loyalty program, which you get access to, where you can kind of track your spend throughout the financial year, see what you need to spend to get onto the next pricing tier, if that makes sense. So there are some subtle differences, but ultimately you're right. It's still kind of skinned in this kind of D2C experience, I guess. Yeah.
Tell me about your B2B customers, because I know in the world of B2B, it feels like there's definitely momentum and shift towards ordering online and managing your own account, self-service, but it's taken a while to get there. Are you finding that your customers are wanting digital as a non-negotiable? You know what I mean? Are they pretty self-reliant? Or is it very manual?
I'd say massively self-reliant. So we have a global sales team and we have a global customer service team who are based throughout the world in each region, who are a massive support for the customers. But ultimately, a huge percentage, and I wish I could tell you the percentage, but it's massive. It's high. It's just self-service. It's customers, coming to site, adding to cart at site and checking out and transacting through the website with ideally, hopefully minimal to no contact with CS or sales, because the stock is there, the inventory is there, the questions that might need to be answered are readily available in a secondary page or on the shipping page or wherever it needs to be. So again, I wish I could get you that stat, but it is pretty self-service.
Awesome lessons. And I love how passionate Joe is around B2B. He's a designer. That was his first job as a designer. And now he's in the world of B2B. That's a bit wild. I bet he never had that on his cards. That's where he would end up. But he is passionate about creating a great customer experience. So I want to take us back to a few other episodes that talked about B2B. And again, if you go on the Add to Cart website, you can Google. If you go back to the Add to Cart website, you can actually put in the search B2B and it'll bring up all our episodes that talk about B2B. It's a really awesome resource. But if we think about some of the biggest lessons we've got, here's what stands out to me. First is, don't build around the tech. Your customer is the system. Anyone who's ever done a B2B transformation will know how intensive the tech is because it often integrates into some of your larger systems and your most complicated systems within your business. That might be your ERP, your warehouse management system, especially finance. It's often not as straightforward as D2C. But Brett Sinclair from the B2B E-commerce Association, who I mentioned earlier, said it best. He said, seamless B2B isn't just about the tech. It's about aligning your entire organization to serve the digital customer. Aligning your entire organization to serve the customer. So this isn't even about the customer experience on the site. This is about customer service. This is about delivery options. This is about everything that the customer needs, whether they're B2B or D2C, to have a really good experience. As businesses cut costs, they're going to look for ways to automate things such as ordering from suppliers. If you can meet them and you can have that seamless experience, that reduces their overheads as well as reducing yours, you're going to be onto a winner here. And we heard from Joe on that episode that he didn't rebuild the website around an ERP. He built it around customer behavior. Fast reordering, bulk selection, transparent pricing tiers. These are some considerations that are very different from D2C, but are hugely important. And you need to think about them as integral to that customer experience, not as an add-on to your D2C. If your B2B project is stuck in the technology department or maybe being led by IT, it's really time to question that, to pull it out and place it under the strategic lens of operations and commercial teams. This isn't just a technology play. This is a business model play to make sure that you are set up to serve those B2B customers in the most efficient way for both them and for you. It's still about the experience. The second lesson here is, just like D2C, you need to know your professional buyer. And this was made very, very clear in a highly entertaining episode that we had with Darren Gunton, who was the MD of marketing for Total Tools. That's a very spicy episode, a very entertaining one, actually, if you want to go back to that one. He talked a lot around understanding who's coming into your business. Is it the tradie who turns up dirty and just needs a quick fix because they're going to go back to the trade site? Or is it about the office worker who's ordering a whole bunch of supplies to keep the team happy over the next 3 months? Very different customers. And as we know in B2B, there's a huge difference to the people who are on the tools versus maybe the office manager who is ordering on behalf of someone else, or maybe the business owner who is making a huge decision on the future of their business. Very different use cases. You need to understand who your professional buyer is in your instance. For AS Color, that insight shows up in their simplicity. Their wholesale customers want efficiency, not a 1,000-page catalog. Remember those days of thumbing through 1,000-page catalogs? They don't want that. They want self-service, real-time stock availability, and clean UX. That matters more than fancy features. Sometimes you're going to have to strip away some of those D2C features to serve that professional buyer. But knowing that buyer means that you're designing for speed and automation, not your structure. Don't just digitalize your wholesale catalog, upload it, and say that the job's done. Think about that buyer. What do they want in that moment? If they're that office manager, they probably want to know that the job is done to a high level of satisfaction and they can tick it off their list. Things like email follow-ups with clear invoices and knowing when that delivery is expected will be really critical to them. It could be your founders who are making big investments on the future of their business. What do they want? They want certainty and guarantees that what they're buying is doing what it says. Things like warranties, customer service, maybe even account management will be really important for them. Or it might be that you're on the tools and you're in and out all the time. So things like loyalty, things like product descriptions, customer service become really important to those people. So knowing who your professional audience is really important for relevant one-on-one relationships in B2B. And lastly, build on what already scales. So one of the biggest challenges that I see in B2B businesses going digital is that they've got complex business rules and structures. If you try and translate every business rule, every pricing tier, every little unique thing that you've built up in your business and try and digitalize it, it probably won't work. And you're going to spend a hell of a lot of money translating what you do today with what you want to do in the future. Instead, have a look at the platforms that are out there, the best of breed platforms. Dan Ferguson from Adore Beauty talked about this with not trying to custom code your way to B2B success. Have a look at what platforms you've got and what features they have, and then think about, can we redesign our business to make this as simple as possible, to follow their roadmap? Joe at AS Color, as you heard, talked about this because they're on BigCommerce and he's leveraging out-of-the-box B2B tools like customer groups, price lists, and multi-login access. It likely doesn't do it exactly like they have in the past, but they've looked at the future of their business and are following the BigCommerce roadmap. So don't rebuild what your platform already does well. Instead, think about, do you actually really need this in your business? Is this a chance for us to step back and reevaluate what we look like in the future? That is a really brief dive into B2B. I think it's one of the most exciting areas in e-commerce right now. And if you haven't already dived into it, get up to speed on it because it's only going to be more and more in the next 5 years. That's it from the Playbook this week. If you liked what you heard and you want more Playbooks from Add to Cart, subscribe wherever you're listening. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever podcast player you're on, and we'll keep bringing them to you every week. And as always, if you want to discuss B2B and how you might enhance that B2B experience, come and join the Add to Cart community. We've got a number of B2B experts in there who are doing this really well. Come in and ask your questions, get some advice, throw some ideas out there. We'd love to have you in there. Head on over to addtocart.com.au to join up for free. Until next time, see you then.